What if I told you that the fastest way to eliminate debt isn't about math, it's about psychology? And that by ignoring the experts who tell you to pay high interest first, you can actually get out of debt faster and stay motivated the entire time. Today, we're breaking down the debt snowball method and why small wins beat spreadsheet optimization every single time when it comes to real people and real debt. Hey everyone, and welcome back to Simple Finance Bytes, where we break down personal finance in plain English for people working toward financial independence and the simple finance way. I'm Ernest, and this is episode 3. If you missed our last episode about why credit unions beat traditional banks, definitely go back and check that out. It could save you hundreds of dollars per year in banking fees alone. Today, we're tackling one of the biggest barriers to financial freedom: debt. Specifically, we're talking about the debt snowball method and why it works when other debt elimination strategies fail. Here's the thing. If you're carrying credit card debt, personal loans, or any consumer debt, you're not just paying interest. You're paying for the privilege of staying financially stuck. Every dollar going to debt payments is a dollar that can't grow your wealth or build your future. But here's the good news. Getting out of debt doesn't require a finance degree or complicated spreadsheets. It requires a system that works with human psychology instead of against it. Before we dive into what works, let's talk about why most people stay stuck in debt even when they know they need to get out. The financial industry loves to make debt elimination complicated. They'll tell you about debt avalanche methods, balance transfer games, consolidation loans, and credit optimization strategies. Most of this advice sounds smart, but it fails in the real world because it ignores how humans actually think and behave. The math-first approach doesn't work. The debt avalanche method says pay minimums on everything and throw extra money at your highest interest rate debt first. Mathematically, this saves you the most money and interest over time. It sounds logical, right? But here's the problem. Humans aren't calculators. Most people who try the avalanche method give up before they see meaningful progress because it can take months or even years to pay off the first high-interest debt. Let's say you have 5 debts, and your highest interest rate is an $8,000 credit card at 24% interest. Even if you're throwing an extra $500 per month at it, that's still going to take over a year to pay off. During that entire year, you'll still have 5 debt payments, 5 minimum amounts to track, and psychologically, you'll feel like you're making no progress. And then there's the complexity trap. Most debt advice also assumes you're going to perfectly optimize everything: balance transfers, promotional interest rates, payment timing, credit utilization ratios. This creates decision paralysis and just gives you more ways to fail. Remember, the more complicated something is, the more ways there are for that thing to fail. I've seen people spend months researching the perfect debt strategy while continuing to pay hundreds in interest because they never actually started paying anything off. And then there's the motivation problem. And this is the real issue as far as I'm concerned. Debt elimination is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You need psychological wins along the way to keep you motivated for the months or years it takes to become debt-free. The avalanche method gives you one big win at the very end. The snowball method gives you wins along the way. If debt elimination is something you're struggling with, make sure you're getting all our latest tips and strategies. Head over to simplefinancebytes.com and sign up for our free monthly newsletter. In that newsletter, I share practical debt elimination tactics, success stories, and step-by-step guides that you won't find anywhere else. No spam, just actionable advice to help you build wealth and achieve financial freedom. So how does the debt snowball method actually work? Well, the debt snowball method is brilliantly simple. List all your debts from smallest balance to largest balance. Pay the minimums on everything, and throw every extra dollar at the smallest debt until it's gone. Then take that payment and apply it to the next smallest debt. And here's why this works when other methods fail. It gives you quick psychological wins. When you knock out that first small debt, maybe it's an $800 credit card or a $1,200 personal loan, you get an immediate psychological boost. You went from having 5 debts to having 4. That's real measurable progress that you can feel. And this isn't just some feel-good nonsense. This is behavioral psychology that actually changes how your brain approaches the rest of your debt elimination journey. You also have to look at momentum building. As you eliminate each debt, your minimum payments go down and your available cash goes up. Let's say your first debt had a $50 minimum payment. Once that's paid off, you now have that $50 plus whatever extra you were throwing at it to attack the next debt. If you were paying $250 total on that first debt, you now have $250 to attack the second debt on top of its own minimum payment. So your elimination strategy, it goes faster, it accelerates naturally. And then being that we're Simple Finance Bytes, it's simplified money management. This is why we kind of gravitate around this method here. Every debt you eliminate is one less payment to track, one less balance to monitor, one less company to deal with. Your financial life gets simpler with every payoff, which reduces stress and makes it easier to stick with a plan. And as you know, we're all about simple finance here. So here's a real example. I'm going to throw a bunch of numbers out there, but it's an example to show you how this works. And by the way, this will be on our website, and I'll put this exact example up there so you can go look at the article. Maybe you're a visual learner and it's easier to see the numbers on the page, but I'm going to go through it on the audio podcast here, and then we'll make sure it goes on the website so that you can get the actual black and white text of it. Let's say you have these debts. Credit card A, $500 balance, $25 minimum payment per month. Personal loan, $1,200 balance, $75 minimum per month. Credit card B, $3,500 balance, $105 minimum per month. And then car loan, $8,000 balance, $280 monthly payment. Using the Snowball method, you'd attack the $500 credit card first, even though it might not have the highest interest rate. Let's say you can put an extra $300 per month toward debt elimination when you start your journey. Here's what it looks like month to month. Months 1 and 2, you're going to pay $325 toward credit card A. That's the $25 minimum payment on that credit card plus the $300 per month you have to put towards debt elimination. And then minimums on everything else. Credit card A is gone in 2 months. Okay, so in 2 months, you've knocked one thing out and you only have 4 left to deal with. Month 3 to 6, you now have $400 to attack the personal loan. That's $75 minimum that you were already paying on that loan, plus the $325 from the eliminated card, right? So it's the $25 minimum plus the $300 extra that you're putting towards debt elimination. So this is important here. You're not actually increasing the amount you're putting towards debt elimination. You're starting off with $300 extra towards debt elimination and then rolling that $300 forward. You're not adding more to the overall amount of money coming out of your pocket. That's kind of important here. So you're putting the $400 per month against the personal loan. Personal loan is gone in 3 more months. So now you went from 4 total debts and 4 things you had to track to just 2 in 6 months. That's how the snowball works, and it goes faster and faster. So months 7 to 12, you have $505 to attack credit card B. So that's the $105 minimum payment you've been paying on it this entire time, plus $400 from eliminated debts that are already left, namely credit card A and then the personal loan that we just paid off. So altogether, that's $505. You pay that now towards credit card B. It's gone in 6 months. So in a total of 1 year, you've gotten rid of 3 debts and you're down to just 1. Now, month 13 to 18, you have $785 to attack the car loan. That's the $280 payment that you were already making on the car this entire time, plus the $505 from eliminated debts. By month 18, you are completely debt-free, and you've had 3 celebration moments along the way instead of waiting to the very end. And that's why this works much better than the debt avalanche method. The debt snowball method works, but setting it up correctly makes all the difference. If you want help creating your personalized debt elimination plan, visit simplefinancebytes.com to learn about our one-on-one coaching sessions. I'll walk you through organizing your debts, setting up your payment system, and creating a timeline for debt freedom. And don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter while you're there. So now let's talk about some common debt snowball mistakes and how to avoid them. And again, all of this will be listed on an article on the website by the time you hear this podcast. The debt snowball method is simple, but there are ways to mess it up. Here are the most common mistakes I see people make. Mistake number 1, not having a written plan. You can't just wing this. You need to actually write down every debt with the exact balance, the minimum payment, and the interest rate. You order them from smallest to largest balance, and then you work the list in that order. You update the list every month as the balance changes, and that's just for your own visual representation of what's going on. You want to be able to see the progress you're making, because again, the entire thing with this debt snowball method is it's psychological. You want to see the wins. You want to feel the wins, so write it down. If you write it down and you follow it, you will see your progress, and it will keep you motivated. Mistake number 2, including the mortgage. I know at the end of the previous section, I just said you're completely debt-free, and some of you might have thought, well, what about my mortgage? That's a debt. The debt snowball is for consumer debt, or what a lot of people call bad debt, right? Credit cards, personal loans. Sometimes even car loans and student loans can fall under this umbrella. But don't include your mortgage in the snowball. Your house payment stays separate. There are a couple of reasons for that, and we will discuss that in future episodes of the podcast, and we do discuss that as well on our website. That's a little bit too complicated for this podcast episode, but just know to leave the mortgage out of the equation for your debt snowball. Mistake number 3, not finding extra money to throw at debt. Now, I think this is obvious, but if you're only paying the minimums, you're not really doing the snowball method. You need to find extra money somewhere. So either cut expenses, pick up some extra work, sell stuff you don't need. Without extra payments, you're just treading water. The idea is to come up with an extra amount. In our example earlier, it was $300 a month, and then put that towards the smallest debt, and then roll that in a snowball up to the largest debt. So you have to find the extra money. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be a lot. It could be $100 a month. It could be $200 a month. Whatever you can find extra to throw at the debt, as long as you get the snowball started, it will take care of it from there as long as you're consistent. Mistake number 4, getting distracted by interest rates. Yes, that 28% credit card is expensive, but if it has a $5,000 balance and your personal loan has a $1,000 balance at 15% interest, attack the personal loan first. Again, this is about psychology over math. Mistake number 5 is not celebrating the wins. And this is important, again, because this method relies on the motivation factor to keep you moving. So when you pay off a debt, celebrate it. Go out for dinner. Nothing crazy or expensive, just go out for a nice dinner, reward yourself for paying off one debt, and then prepare yourself to move into the next one. It's also good to have a debt elimination buddy, if you can find one, someone else who also wants to get out of debt and is willing to keep you accountable as you keep them accountable. But celebrate the wins and then mark it on your calendar, right? Hey, here's the day I got rid of this debt. And these psychological rewards, they reinforce the behavior and they keep you motivated to keep moving forward in your debt elimination journey. Mistake number 6, adding new debt during the process. Again, this should be obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. You can't add new debt while trying to eliminate old debt, right? So when you pay off the first debt, if it's a credit card, for example, shred the card, delete it from any of your mobile wallets, make it to where you cannot use it without some massive amount of effort. You want that debt gone. You don't want it to keep coming back. Again, cut up the credit cards, delete it from your mobile wallets, delete shopping apps, delete Amazon off your phone if you need to. Do whatever it takes to stop the bleeding. As you go paying these debts off, do not add new debts back, because that will just reset your entire process. And then there's the cash flow problem. Here's something most debt advice ignores. You need to maintain some cash flow margin while you're paying off debt. Don't throw every available penny at debt if it means you'll need to use credit cards for emergencies. Keep a small emergency buffer, maybe $1,000, so you don't sabotage your progress with new debt when unexpected expenses hit. And that's the thing, they're unexpected. And often they come when you don't want them to come or least expect them to come, or however you want to look at it. They come at inopportune times. So have a small emergency fund or buffer set aside so that you can keep your forward momentum going with eliminating debt. Now, there are some times when you want to consider modifications to this plan. The standard debt snowball works for most people, but there are some times to modify it slightly. If you have a tiny debt with a huge minimum payment that's eating your cash flow, you can consider knocking that out first, even if it's not the smallest balance, right? And that's just because it's an awkward situation where you have a smaller debt but a big minimum payment. That's messing with your cash flow. So that's why you might want to get that one taken care of first. If you have a debt that's causing you major stress, like money owed to a family member or a collections account, consider prioritizing that for peace of mind. Again, the snowball method is contingent upon psychology. It's making sure your mind is in the right spot and that you're motivated and you're moving forward. So if you have a debt that's causing you emotional stress, like you owe a family member money, it's okay to pay that off first just to get the peace of mind to keep you motivated and keep you moving forward. And then the key is not to overthink it. Like everything we talk about here at Simple Finance Bytes, the idea is to simplify everything and do not overthink things. If you are overthinking it, it makes it easier for you to make a mistake. Small modifications are fine, but don't turn the simple snowball into a complicated optimization project. We don't want that here. We want simple, easy, effective steps to eliminating debt. So, what do you do once you've gotten rid of all this debt? Getting out of debt is just the first step toward financial freedom. Once you are debt-free, you have a choice. You can either inflate your lifestyle and end up back in debt, or you can redirect those debt payments toward building wealth. And this is where we'll talk about the wealth snowball briefly. You take all those old debt payments you were making and redirect them towards wealth building. So if you were paying $800 per month toward debt elimination, right? That's what we worked our way up to. You now have $800 per month to invest in your future. That $800 monthly going into low-cost index funds. Again, we have a simple finance system that covers all this. That compounded over 20 years at average market returns becomes $460,000. And that's the real cost of carrying consumer debt. It's not just the interest you're paying. Everyone talks about that. But it's the wealth you're not building because the interest is a vampire on your finances. That's almost $500,000 you're giving up because of the interest payments on the debt. That's the reason we want to get rid of it as soon as possible. However, before you start investing, your emergency fund has to be in place. Build a proper emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. This prevents you from going back into debt when life happens. Life happens many ways. Loss of a job, loss of a partner, loss of all kinds of things can create a massive strain on the finances. So if you have an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of your core and critical expenses, it can get you by whenever an emergency happens. So you want to have that in place before you start investing, right? Get rid of your debt, get your emergency fund squared away, then start investing. And when you do start investing, you want to use our Simple Finance system. Don't overcomplicate investing after you've simplified debt elimination, right? You're doing the opposite now. You want to do the same thing. Simple debt elimination, simple investing. A basic 1 or 2 fund portfolio, a target date fund inside of a Roth IRA is all most people need. Keep the Simple Finance principles going. Now, again, we cover the entire Simple Finance system in our monthly newsletter. The Simple Finance system gives you a dead simple system to set it and forget it when it comes to investing, because that's how you actually build wealth. You set it and forget it and let it do its thing. And then the key thing to remember is to stay debt-free. The hardest part isn't getting out of debt. It's staying out of debt. Most people who eliminate debt end up back in debt within a few years because they never address the underlying spending and saving habits. that led to that debt. Again, psychological, right? We're working with the brain here, not just the math. So use the discipline you built during debt elimination to build wealth instead. The same intensity that got you out of debt can make you wealthy if you redirect it properly. Are you ready to start your debt elimination journey or take it to the next level? Visit simplefinancebytes.com for detailed guides on the debt snowball method, wealth building strategies, and more. Sign up for our free monthly newsletter to get tips delivered straight to your inbox and learn about our coaching service if you want personalized help creating your debt-free timeline. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Simple Finance Bytes. If this episode helped you understand why the debt snowball method works when other strategies fail, do me a favor. First, share it with someone who's struggling with debt. The debt snowball method changes lives when people actually implement it. Second, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. Next week, we're talking about why your savings account is stealing from you and what to do instead. Third, visit simplefinancebytes.com, explore our debt elimination resources, and sign up for that free monthly newsletter. That's where I share detailed action steps and success stories that help people actually achieve financial freedom. Remember, getting out of debt isn't about having perfect math skills or the highest income. It's about having a system that works with human psychology and the discipline to stick with it. The debt snowball method works because it recognizes that personal finance is more about personal than finance. Small wins lead to big results when you give yourself permission to celebrate progress instead of waiting for perfection. Until next time, keep it simple, stay focused, and take control of your financial future.